Imagine a 13-year-old girl sitting alone in the cockpit of a massive airplane. 249 lives depend on her. She has never trained as a pilot. Yet somehow, she manages the impossible. Her brave actions that day will leave you amazed. This incredible story of courage and survival is unbelievable. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Mia Rodriguez sat quietly in seat 18A, her small hands gripping a worn notebook. She was only 13 years old, still in middle school, but her mind was already far beyond her age. Outside the window, white clouds stretched endlessly like a cotton blanket below the plane. This was her first time flying alone. Her parents had been nervous about letting her go, but Mia had insisted. She was traveling from Los Angeles to visit her grandmother in New York for the summer break. Her mother had hugged her tightly at the airport gate, whispering, "Be brave, my little one. Call me the moment you land." Mia had nodded confidently, though her stomach had been full of butterflies. Now, sitting by the window, she felt a strange mix of excitement and fear. The plane was huge, a Boeing 737, and it felt like a giant metal bird carrying her through the sky. Around her, the cabin was filled with ordinary sounds. Passengers chatted softly, babies cried, flight attendants pushed carts down the narrow aisle, offering drinks and snacks. A businessman in the seat next to her was typing rapidly on his laptop, completely focused on his work. An elderly woman across the aisle knitted a blue scarf, her needles clicking rhythmically. Mia opened her notebook. Inside were dozens of pages filled with sketches and notes. Airplane diagrams. Cockpit layouts. Wing structures. Control panels. She had been obsessed with airplanes since she was 6 years old. While other girls her age played with dolls or watched cartoons, Mia spent hours watching documentaries about aviation, reading books about famous pilots, and studying how planes worked. Her father was a mechanic at a small airport. Every weekend, he took Mia with him to work. She would sit in the hangar, watching him fix engines, check instruments, and explain how everything functioned. He had even let her sit in the cockpit of small planes, showing her the controls, the pedals, the throttle, and the yoke. Flying is not just about skill, her father would say. It's about staying calm when things go wrong. Mia had never imagined that those words would save her life one day. She closed her notebook and looked out the window again. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The plane felt steady, smooth, almost peaceful. She leaned her head against the cool glass, her eyes growing heavy. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed safe. But in just a few minutes, everything would change. A sharp sound jolted Mia awake. Her eyes snapped open. At first, she thought it was just a passenger dropping something, but then she heard it again. A loud thud from the front of the plane. Then hurried footsteps. Urgent voices. Mia sat up straight, her heart already beginning to race. The businessman beside her had stopped typing. He was looking toward the front of the cabin, his eyebrows furrowed with concern. The elderly woman across the aisle had put down her knitting needles, her wrinkled hands clutching them tightly. Something was wrong. Mia could feel it in the air. The normal, peaceful atmosphere of the flight had suddenly shifted. There was tension now, thick and heavy like a storm cloud building overhead. A flight attendant appeared from the cockpit area, walking quickly down the aisle. Her face had lost all its color. Her hands were shaking. Other crew members whispered urgently to each other near the galley, their eyes wide with fear. Passengers began to notice. Whispers spread through the cabin like ripples in water. "What's happening?" someone asked. "Is something wrong with the plane?" another voice called out. A mother pulled her child closer. A man gripped the armrests of his seat. The tension grew with every passing second. Suddenly, the flight attendant grabbed the intercom phone near the front galley, her hand trembling so badly she almost dropped it. The overhead speakers crackled to life with a harsh static sound that made everyone jump. "Ladies and gentlemen," her voice was shaking. We have a medical emergency in the cockpit. Please remain calm." The cabin fell silent. Even the crying babies seemed to quiet down. Mia's heart began to race. A medical emergency? In the cockpit? The flight attendant's next word sent a wave of terror through the plane. "Our captain has collapsed. The co-pilot is also unconscious. We need immediate help. Is there anyone on board who knows how to fly a plane?" Gasps erupted throughout the cabin. A woman screamed. A man shouted, "What? Both pilots?" Panic spread like wildfire. People stood up from their seats, looking around desperately. A man in a business suit raised his hand hesitantly. "I've flown a small plane once," he said. "But it was years ago. I don't know if I can." "Please, sir," the flight attendant begged. "We need help now." The man stood up and hurried toward the cockpit. Mia watched him disappear through the door. Minutes passed. The cabin was filled with terrified whispers. Children cried. Adults prayed. Then the man came back out, his face white as paper. He shook his head. "I can't do it," he said, his voice breaking. "It's too complicated. The controls are nothing like what I flew before. I'll crash the plane if I try." The flight attendant looked like she might faint. She grabbed the intercom again, her voice now desperate. "Please. Is there anyone else? Anyone with any flight experience at all?" Silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Mia's hands were shaking. Her notebook lay open on her lap, filled with her sketches of cockpit controls. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. "Flying is not just about skill. It's about staying calm when things go wrong." But how could she stay calm? Her heart felt like it was trying to break out of her chest. Her hands were cold and clammy. She felt dizzy, like the floor was moving beneath her feet. She looked around the cabin. People were crying. Praying. Holding each other. A little boy in the row ahead was asking his mother, "Are we going to die, Mommy?" The mother had no answer. She just held him tighter, tears streaming down her face. Mia thought about her own mother, probably at home cooking dinner right now, having no idea that her daughter was in danger. She thought about her father at the airport hangar, probably fixing an engine, unaware that everything he had taught her was about to be tested in the most terrifying way possible. Her hands gripped the edge of her seat so tightly that her fingernails dug into the fabric. Every part of her body screamed at her to stay silent, to stay hidden, to let someone else step forward. She was just a kid. Just a 13-year-old girl who liked to draw airplanes in her notebook. Who was she to think she could fly a real jet? But deep down, beneath all the fear and doubt, she knew the truth. She had knowledge that others didn't have. She had spent years learning, studying, preparing, even if she never thought she would need it like this. If no one helped, everyone on this plane would die. Including her. Slowly, with trembling legs, Mia stood up. Her voice was small at first, barely a whisper. I know about airplanes." A few heads turned. The flight attendant looked at her, confused. Mia spoke louder, her voice shaking but clear. "I've studied aviation. My father is a mechanic. I know how the controls work. I've never flown a real plane, but I can try." The cabin erupted in shocked whispers. "She's just a child. She's what, 12? 13? This is insane." But the flight attendant's eyes filled with desperate hope. She rushed toward Mia, kneeling down in front of her. "Sweetheart," she said gently, her voice trembling. "Do you really think you can do this?" Mia's throat was dry. She nodded slowly. "I don't know if I can land it," she said honestly. But I can try. I have to try. The flight attendant's face crumpled with emotion. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Come with me. Mia's legs felt like jelly as she walked down the aisle. Every eye in the cabin was on her. Some passengers looked at her with hope. Others with fear. A few whispered prayers under their breath. When she reached the cockpit door, the flight attendant opened it. Mia stepped inside. And her breath caught in her throat. The cockpit was chaos. The captain was slumped over in his seat, his head tilted to the side, unconscious. The co-pilot was lying on the floor, a crew member kneeling beside him, trying desperately to wake him up. Mia's stomach twisted. Both pilots were completely out. There was no one flying the plane. The flight attendant placed a hand on Mia's shoulder. Can you do this? Mia stared at the captain's seat. The controls. The screens. The instruments. She had seen them in books, in videos, in simulators. But this was real. This was a massive passenger jet with 249 lives on board. Her hands trembled. Her heart pounded. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But she didn't. She took a deep breath and nodded. Help me move him, she said quietly. Two crew members carefully lifted the captain out of his seat and laid him gently on the floor. Mia climbed into the captain's chair. It was too big for her. Her feet barely reached the pedals. But she adjusted the seat forward, tightened the straps, and placed her small hands on the yoke. The control panel in front of her was overwhelming. Dozens of screens. Hundreds of buttons. Blinking lights. Beeping alarms. Her father's voice echoed in her mind again. Start with the basics. Altitude. Speed. Heading. She looked at the primary flight display. The artificial horizon showed the plane was level. The altimeter read 35,000 feet. The speed indicator showed they were flying at a steady pace. Good. The plane was stable. For now. A headset hung beside the throttle. With shaking hands, Mia put it on and pressed the transmit button. Her voice was small, scared, but clear. Mayday, Mayday. This is Flight 428. Both pilots are unconscious. I'm just a kid, but I know some things about flying. Please help me. Static filled her ears. Then a calm, professional voice responded. Flight 428, this is Los Angeles Center. We copy your mayday. Stay calm. We're going to help you. What is your name? Mia, she whispered. Mia Rodriguez. I'm 13. There was a pause. Then the voice came back, steady and reassuring. Mia, you're doing great. We're going to guide you step by step. First, I need you to tell me what you see on the instruments. Mia's eyes scanned the panels. She read out the altitude, speed, and heading, her voice shaking but clear. Perfect, the controller said. You're stable. The plane is flying itself right now using autopilot. Your job is to keep it that way and listen to everything we tell you. Can you do that? Mia swallowed hard. Yes. Good. We're going to start preparing you to land this plane. It's going to take time, but we'll walk you through every single step. You're not alone, Mia. Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. Behind her, through the cockpit door, she could hear the muffled sounds of crying passengers. She thought of her mother, who was probably at home right now, unaware of what was happening. She thought of her father, who had taught her everything she knew. She tightened her grip on the yoke. I'm ready, she said. And so began the longest hour of her life. The voice of the air traffic controller, whose name was Captain James Harlow, became Mia's lifeline. He spoke calmly, clearly, guiding her through every step. His voice was like an anchor in a storm, steady and reassuring. Mia, I need you to find the autopilot panel. It's above your head, in the center. Do you see it? Mia looked up. A panel filled with buttons and switches. Her eyes scanned them, trying to remember everything she had studied. The labels were small, hard to read in the dim cockpit lighting. Her hands felt numb. Yes, I see it, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Good. The autopilot is keeping the plane stable right now. Don't touch it yet. We'll tell you when to make changes. For now, just watch the instruments and tell me if anything changes. Mia nodded, even though he couldn't see her. Her eyes moved across the screens. The altitude was steady at 35,000 feet. The speed indicator showed 480 knots. The horizon indicator showed the wings were perfectly level. Everything looked stable, but Mia knew that could change in an instant. She could feel sweat dripping down her back. Her shirt was sticking to her skin. The cockpit felt hot, suffocating, even though the air conditioning was running. Her breathing was quick and shallow. Minutes passed. Each one felt like an hour. The plane flew smoothly through the sky, cutting through the clouds like a silver bird. But inside, Mia's heart never stopped racing. Her mind kept imagining all the things that could go wrong. What if she pressed the wrong button? What if she couldn't understand the instructions? What if she froze at the critical moment? Mia, Captain Harlow said gently. Tell me about yourself. What made you interested in airplanes? Mia blinked. Why was he asking her this now? They were in the middle of an emergency. Lives were at stake. But then she understood. He was trying to keep her calm. To keep her talking. To prevent her from panicking. My dad, she said softly, her voice trembling. He's an airplane mechanic. He works at a small airport near our house. Ever since I was little, he would take me with him on weekends. I would sit in the hangar and watch him work. He would explain everything to me. How the engines work. How the controls respond. How to read the instruments. He sounds like a wonderful father, Captain Harlow said warmly. He must be very proud of you. Mia felt tears stinging her eyes. She blinked them back quickly. I hope so, she whispered. I hope he's proud. I hope I don't let him down. I hope I don't let anyone down. You won't, Captain Harlow said firmly. You're already doing an incredible job. Better than many trained pilots would do in your situation. You're brave, Mia. Braver than you know. His words gave her a small spark of courage. She straightened her back slightly, trying to sit taller in the too big captain's seat. Mia, we're going to start preparing for descent. But first, I need you to check the fuel. Look at the fuel gauge. It's on the lower left of the center panel. Mia found it. It says, about 40%. That's enough, Captain Harlow said. We're going to bring you down to a nearby airport. But we need to do this slowly. Step by step. Are you ready? Yes. Okay. First, I need you to reduce altitude. We're going to take you down from 35,000 feet to 20,000 feet. I'll tell you exactly what to do. Mia's hands hovered over the controls. Find the altitude selector. It's a knob on the autopilot panel. Turn it counterclockwise slowly until it reads 20,000. Mia found the knob. Her hand shook as she turned it. The numbers on the screen began to change. 34,000, 33,000. 32,000. The plane's nose dipped slightly. Mia's stomach lurched. It's okay, Captain Harlow said. The plane is descending. That's normal. You're doing great. The descent continued. Mia watched the altimeter carefully. Behind her, she could hear the crew updating the passengers, trying to keep them calm. But she could also hear the fear in their voices. Minutes felt like hours. The plane descended smoothly. 30,000 feet. 25,000 feet. 20,000 feet. Perfect, Captain Harlow said. Now level it off. Turn the knob back to hold at 20,000. Mia obeyed. The descent stopped. The plane leveled out. You're a natural, Mia, Captain Harlow said. Now we're going to reduce speed. Find the speed selector. Step by step, Captain Harlow guided her. Adjusting speed. Adjusting altitude. Changing heading. Every instruction was clear, patient, and precise. But then, disaster struck. Without warning, the plane shook violently. Mia's hands were thrown off the yoke. The movement was so sudden, so powerful, that she felt like the entire aircraft was being picked up and shaken by an invisible giant hand. Alarms blared throughout the cockpit. Red warning lights flashed on the panels. The artificial horizon tilted sharply to the left, showing that the wings were no longer level. The plane was banking dangerously. Behind her, through the cockpit door, Mia could hear the passengers screaming. The sound chilled her blood. It was pure terror, raw and unfiltered. Turbulence. Captain Harlow's voice came through urgently, louder than before. Mia, grab the yoke. Don't let go. You must keep control. Mia's hands shot forward, gripping the yoke so tightly her knuckles turned completely white. The control felt like it was fighting against her, vibrating and pulling in her hands. The plane rocked side to side, shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. Keep the wings level. Captain Harlow shouted over the noise. Use the yoke. Small movements. Don't overcorrect. Mia's arms strained as she fought the controls. Her muscles burned with the effort. The plane tilted left, and she could see through the windshield that they were banking at a dangerous angle. She pulled right, trying to level the wings. But she pulled too hard, too fast. The plane tilted sharply to the right instead. No, 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 she gasped, panic rising in her chest. Correct it. Captain Harlow urged. Left. Gently. Mia pulled left, her whole body shaking with fear and effort. The plane responded, slowly, agonizingly slowly, beginning to level out. But then another wave of turbulence hit, worse than the first. The aircraft dropped suddenly, as if it had fallen off a cliff. Mia's stomach lurched. She felt weightless for a terrifying second. Then the plane bounced back up, throwing her against her seat belt so hard it knocked the wind out of her. Her vision blurred. Her ears were ringing. The alarms were deafening. The controls were fighting her with every movement. Steady, Mia. You've got this. Focus on the horizon indicator. Match it. Mia forced her eyes to focus on the screen in front of her. The artificial horizon showed the wings tilted at a severe angle. She adjusted, carefully this time, fighting every instinct to make big, panicked movements. Left. Right. Level. Adjust. Correct. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Small corrections, Mia. Never fight the plane. Work with it. Be gentle but firm. She followed that advice now, making tiny adjustments, feeling the plane respond beneath her hands. Slowly, painfully slowly, the wings leveled. The artificial horizon straightened. Her heart pounded. Sweat dripped down her face. The turbulence felt like the plane was being tossed by a giant hand. Steady, Mia. You've got this. She clenched her teeth, focusing on the artificial horizon. Slowly, carefully, she leveled the wings. The shaking continued, but the plane stabilized. That's it. Captain Harlow said. Hold it steady. After what felt like an eternity, the turbulence passed. The plane smoothed out. The alarms stopped. Mia slumped back in her seat, gasping for air. Her arms ached. Her hands were numb. "You did it, Mia," Captain Harlow said, his voice filled with pride. "You kept control. You saved everyone." Tears streamed down Mia's face. She wiped them away quickly. "I'm okay," she whispered. "I'm okay." But she wasn't okay. She was terrified. Exhausted. Her body trembled with adrenaline. But she couldn't stop now. "Mia," Captain Harlow said gently. "We're almost there. I can see the airport on radar. We're going to bring you in for landing. Are you ready?" Mia looked out the windshield. In the distance, she could see lights. Tiny pinpricks of brightness against the darkening sky. The airport. Her destination. Her final challenge. She took a deep breath and nodded. "I'm ready." The airport lights grew brighter as the plane descended. Mia's eyes were locked on the glowing runway ahead. Her hands gripped the yoke so tightly her knuckles were white. "Mia, you're on final approach," Captain Harlow said. "This is the hardest part, but I'll be with you every second. First, reduce speed. Throttle back slowly." Mia's hand found the throttle levers. She pulled them back gently. The engine's roar softened. The plane slowed. "Good. Now extend the flaps. Find the flap lever on your right." Mia found it. She pulled it down. The plane shuddered slightly as the flaps extended, increasing drag. "Perfect. The flaps will help you slow down and descend more steeply. Now, reduce altitude. Take it down to 5,000 feet." Mia adjusted the altitude selector. The plane's nose dipped. The ground rushed closer. Her heart pounded. The runway was right there. So close. But landing was the most dangerous part. One mistake, and the plane would crash. "Mia, listen carefully," Captain Harlow said. "You're going to line up with the runway. Use the yoke to steer gently. Keep the wings level. Don't overcorrect." Mia's eyes flicked between the runway and the instruments. The plane was slightly off-center. She nudged the yoke left. The plane shifted. Too much. She corrected right. "Easy, easy," Captain Harlow coached. Small movements. The plane wobbled but steadied. The runway stretched out ahead, a long strip of asphalt lined with lights. Altitude 3,000 feet. Looking good. Reduce speed more. Mia pulled the throttle back further. The engines quieted. The plane felt like it was gliding now, heavy and slow. 2,000 feet. "You're doing great, Mia." Her breath came in short gasps. Sweat soaked her shirt. Her arms ached from holding the yoke. 1,000 feet. "This is it. When I say flare, you're going to pull back gently on the yoke. Not too much. Just enough to lift the nose slightly. Understand?" "Yes," Mia whispered. The ground rushed up. Buildings. Trees. Roads. The runway was right below her now. 500 feet. Hold steady. The plane sank lower. The lights of the runway filled the windshield. 300 feet. "You're lined up perfectly." Mia's heart felt like it would explode. 200 feet. "Get ready." The runway edge lights blurred past. 100 feet. "Flare now." Mia pulled back on the yoke. The nose lifted. The plane seemed to hang in the air for a moment. Then the wheels hit the runway. Hard. The plane bounced. Mia gasped. For a terrifying second, she thought they would flip. "Hold it. Keep the nose up." Captain Harlow shouted. Mia pulled back harder. The plane bounced again, then slammed down, wheels screeching against the asphalt. Reverse thrust. Push the throttles forward and up. Mia shoved the throttle levers up and forward. The engines roared in reverse, fighting against the plane's momentum. Brakes. Press the pedals. Mia's feet jammed down on the pedals. The plane shuddered, slowing. The runway lights flashed past. The plane rocked violently. Alarms blared. But it was slowing down. Slower. And then, finally, it stopped. The engines wound down. The alarms fell silent. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of Mia's ragged breathing. Then, from the cabin behind her, came an explosion of sound. Cheering. Crying. Applause. Screams of joy and relief. Mia sat frozen in the captain's seat, her hands still gripping the yoke, her whole body shaking. Mia, Captain Harlow's voice came through the headset, thick with emotion. You did it. You landed the plane. You saved 249 lives. Tears poured down Mia's face. She couldn't speak. She could barely breathe. The cockpit door burst open. Flight attendants rushed in, sobbing, pulling Mia into their arms. You're a hero, one of them cried. You're an absolute hero. Through the windshield, Mia could see emergency vehicles racing toward the plane, lights flashing. Firefighters. Paramedics. Airport staff. But all Mia could think about was her father. Her mother. Her family. She had done it. She had saved them all. The next few hours were a blur. Paramedics boarded the plane, rushing to help the unconscious pilots. Both were carefully placed on stretchers and carried out. Their faces were still pale, but they were breathing. They would survive. Passengers were evacuated safely, moving down the emergency slides or using the jet bridge. Many of them stopped when they saw Mia sitting there, wrapped in a blanket, still shaking from the experience. They approached her with tears in their eyes. An elderly man with white hair knelt down in front of her. Thank you, he said, his voice breaking. You saved my life. I'm going to meet my first grandchild tomorrow. Because of you, I'll get to hold her. A young mother holding a baby kissed Mia's forehead. You're an angel, she whispered. My baby will grow up because of you. One by one, passengers came to thank her. Some hugged her. Some just touched her hand. Some cried. Some prayed. All of them looked at her like she was a miracle. News crews arrived within minutes, surrounding the plane with cameras and bright lights. Reporters shouted questions, trying to get closer. Airport security had to push them back to give Mia space. Is it true you're only 13? How did you know how to fly the plane? What were you thinking during the landing? Mia couldn't answer. She sat on the edge of an ambulance, wrapped in a thermal blanket, her whole body still trembling. A paramedic checked her vital signs, shining a light in her eyes, taking her blood pressure. She was physically fine, but emotionally, she was completely overwhelmed. Her phone, which had been in her pocket the whole time, suddenly started ringing. The screen showed Mom calling. With shaking hands, Mia answered. Mia. Mia, oh my God, I just saw the news. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Her mother's voice broke through the fog in Mia's mind. Suddenly, everything she had been holding back came flooding out. Tears poured down her face. I'm okay, Mom, she sobbed. I'm okay. I was so scared. I didn't know if I could do it. But I remembered everything Dad taught me. Everything. Her mother was crying too, her voice shaking with emotion. They're saying you landed the plane. They're saying you saved everyone. My baby. My brave, incredible baby. I just did what Dad taught me. I tried to stay calm. I tried to remember everything. Your father is right here, her mother said. He's watching the television. He's crying, Mia. I've never seen him cry before. He wants to talk to you. There was a rustling sound as the phone was passed. Then her father's deep voice came through, thick with tears. Mija, he said, using his special nickname for her. I can't believe what you did. I'm watching the footage right now. They're showing the plane landing. They're saying a 13-year-old girl did it. My little girl. Dad, I was so scared, Mia whispered. I know, sweetheart. But you didn't let fear control you. You remembered your training. You stayed calm. You did everything exactly right. I'm so proud of you. More proud than I've ever been in my entire life. Mia closed her eyes, letting his words wash over her. All the fear, all the doubt, all the terror, it slowly began to fade, replaced by a warm sense of peace. Within hours, the story spread around the world like wildfire. Every news channel was covering it. Every website had the headline, 13-year-old girl lands passenger jet alone, 249 lives saved. Social media exploded with posts about Mia. People called her a hero. A miracle. An inspiration. The bravest kid in the world. Celebrities shared her story. World leaders sent messages of congratulations. But Mia didn't feel like a hero. She felt exhausted. Terrified. Grateful to be alive. Grateful that everyone was safe. The pilots recovered fully within a few days. Medical tests confirmed they had both eaten contaminated food before the flight, causing severe food poisoning that made them lose consciousness suddenly. It was a 1-in-a-million accident, but it had happened. And when they met Mia days later, they hugged her tightly, tears in their eyes. You saved our lives too, the captain said. You're the bravest person I've ever met. Mia returned home to a hero's welcome. Her school threw an assembly in her honor. The mayor gave her a medal. Aviation experts called her a prodigy. But the moment Mia treasured most was when her father hugged her in their driveway, tears rolling down his face. You listened, he whispered. You stayed calm. You did everything right. Mia hugged him back, her heart full. She was just a 13-year-old girl. But on that day, she had become something more. A pilot. A hero. A survivor. And she knew, deep in her heart, that one day she would fly again.